It's nearly May, and with it comes another month of incredible new indie game releases. Hey there everybody, welcome back to Get Into Gaming and to the top 10 new indie games of May 2020. If you see anything you like, be sure to let us know down in the comments, and with that, let's crack on with this month's rundown. Let's begin this month's rundown with Atomicrops, which comes out of early access on May 28th. Okay, so we've not played this since towards the end of last year, although a quick glance at the recent update log shows the team behind it have been hugely busy since we last picked it up. There's something possibly pretty special going on here in what's honestly described as an action shooter roguelike farming simulator, where you must grow, farm, cultivate and defend crops in what's the last farm providing food for your local town, all within a post-end of days setting. We recall the early access version was really rather unforgiving and somewhat brutal, and unless you're the king of all twin-stick shooters and a dab hand with the hoe and the watering can, you're going to kick the bucket many times over. Atomicrops is coming to PCs by way of the Epic Store, with it also landing on Switch, PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Next up at this month's number 9, Wildfire comes out by way of the crew at Humble Bundle Publishers and is set in what the developers are calling a world in which magic has all but vanished, where you've been shamed and branded as being a witch, which, well, you kind of are, by villainous forces who perhaps rather understandably are somewhat wary of your unusual powers. All that being the case, you're able to use them to freeze, burn and grow the environment as you look to protect and free your fellow villagers from captivity and generally keep them all safe and in good order. There are 4 elements of skills to master, in what seems to be a mixture of stealth and platforming gameplay, with further additional puzzling sections. We're thinking this all rather looks lovely, as is the musical score, with it sounding like things from Riverdance and an evening spent in a good old Irish pub. In any case, if you're a fan of action stealth games and fancy something to give that itch a little scratch, with it also offering a dose of local couch co-op, as long as one of you is playing with a controller, Wildfire comes out on Steam and Humble Bundle this coming May 26th. At number 8, and one of the games we foolishly missed off our Game of the Year rundown from 2019, Lonely Mountains Downhill will descend onto Nintendo Switch this coming May 7th. Now, if you haven't seen this one yet, it really is worth taking a good hard look at. It's one of the most serene sporting-based games you can play on any platform. The choice of the colours and the pared back graphics and sound, dear goodness, the sound is an utter triumph, with it foregoing the usual quick and pacey music you tend to see in such games, with it simply using the sounds you might expect with such solitude of just you, your bike and the sound of nature. Think the rustling of trees and birds tweeting away. While on one level, as we've already said, it's a fine, serene experience, on the other hand, it's also one heck of a tough all-round arcade type of racer, where you're battling down various mountains as quickly as possible. We found much of the fun comes from trying to find shortcuts and secret ways which give you that little bit of an edge over the rest of the world, which you're able to see how you're doing on global leaderboards. While we really loved it, we also kinda sucked at it, although we did enjoy trying to upskill ourselves in the pursuit of the perfect ride. Lonely Mountains Downhill is pretty special, and we promise you will be adding it to our Switch collection come launch day. At number 7, we have Golf with Friends, which makes its way out of early access on May the 19th. Now, this one's been getting quite a lot of attention of late, with several huge channels such as Jacksepticeye getting on board to play it out with a few of his friends. Okay, we understand the game as it is the day this video goes out. It's pretty much in its final launch state, with the 1.0 version all about coming to the Switch, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. To be honest, well, there really is magic to be had here, and it's really within its co-op play where that comes. Fire up the game and you can get 11 of your mates to join you across 9 different courses in what's a pretty decent online multiplayer. We've been playing this with friends and family over the last couple of weeks, and even a few holes with work colleagues in what was perhaps a stretch of the working week, although we found this one a nice little way of feeling connected in such times. Golf with Friends just feels so right for right now. Coming in at number 6, Before We Leave is one of the coolest looking city building games we've seen in ages, with it featuring a hexagon-based grid system, where you're all by accounts looking to rebuild humanity, having newly emerged from spending generations underground. The catch? Well, at the game's onset, you only know how to grow potatoes, which perhaps isn't the best start in once trying to level up the human race to where it was. Now here's another thing. The press info and website says this is all non-violent, although it does go on to explain that once you've built cities and you can explore the universe, not everything is safe. Ancient ancestral guardians, the same ones that force your forebears underground, can pop back to menace you every once in a while, as do so-called space whales who apparently like to graze on your world as part of their 5 or so a day. So yes, there seems to be no violence, but plenty of death. Anyway, it just looks all super interesting, and on the face of things looks a strong offering, with it coming out on May the 8th by way of the Epic Games Store.
I never wanted you to come here. You make everything so hard. I wish you'd stayed away.
Coming up at number 5 and out on PC via Steam on May the 5th after a short delay, Someday You'll Return will be offering up a psychological horror game in which the developers CBE Software have said it draws inspiration from games such as Silent Hill, Outlast 2, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, and others such as Resident Evil 7. Now these references are quite the all-round varied choice, and while we've yet to play it, we're immensely fascinated to see which of these games features the most, as it were. Hopefully Outlast 2 is way down the list, as we didn't really get on too well with that particular game. In any case, some background. You'll be playing as a father of the girl who's gone missing. Now she's run away like this before, although this time, well, you've got that feeling that something really isn't quite right. She's also run away to a forest in what the press information calls a place you swore many years ago you'd never go back to. Well, of course, that little promise is well and truly out of the window. Now, it really does look neat, and perhaps, as others may have already said, it kind of reminds us and feels like something of the BioShock series. And if that's what the developers are looking for, well, that's just pretty fine with us. Now, also, in what's a fairly ominous phrasing on the Steam homepage, it says yes, there's plenty of horror elements, although Someday You'll Return, it's not always the most obvious monsters that are the most frightening. Spooky. Moving onwards to this month's number 4, Spirit of the North comes out on May 7th onto PC via Steam and the Nintendo Switch on the eStore, with it already out on the PlayStation 4 towards the end of last year. Just like Lonely Mountains Downhill from earlier, we wanted to give this gorgeous game a little signal boost, with it coming out on these new platforms. Spirit of the North sees you play as an ordinary red fox within a third-person adventure game that's inspired by the majesty that are the landscapes of Iceland. The story also takes root from within Nordic folklore, where you've become entwined with the Guardian of the Northern Lights as you journey across the tundra, glaciers and mountainsides while solving environmental-based puzzles with platforming elements to keep you company. Having played this towards the back end of last year, this really is such a mellow experience, and one that's sadly been missed by so many, and one that's really so very calming and so easy and perfect to unwind into at the end of a long day.
Hello, it's me, Cheeseball. Are you tired of being sad and alone? Sick of living in squalor with no friends? Play Best Friend Forever.
At number 3, having been delayed from February, we have Best Friends Forever, which looks so beautiful and baffling in equal measures. Touted as offering something of a gaming first, with it combining pet care and dating sim, where a community of dog lovers are able to come together in search of walkies, love and romance. Yes, of course, before you ask, you are able to pet the dog and do much more as you look after your virtual pooch and their associated stats, such as their manners and how smart they are. If you think your doggo is up for it, you can even sign them up to try to pass their doggy exams at Paws Academy. Yes, but of course. As for the dating part of the game, you can go ahead and meet up with fellow dog lovers who no doubt will have their own pooch or pooches, while also spending time with your dog in an optional sandbox mode. Best Friend Forever looks, well, it looks brilliantly bonkers, with love just a woof away when it comes to the Switch and PCs from Steam this coming May the 14th. At number 2, and out in early access on Steam on May 7th, Arboria looks like a really attractive and curious 3D person action RPG with roguelike elements. You'll play within procedurally generated dungeons as a new Jotun warrior, where you're looking at taking on a quest into what's called the Hole in order to heal the Father Tree and once more restore your home tribe to greatness. Now, aside from how this all looks, what's grabbed us and earned a place in this month's One to Watch episode is the combat, which on appearance, well, first things, it looks super tight with the real-time dynamics, and we're also intrigued to see how you're going to mix and match your strategies according to the enemies you come across. This came to us pretty much out of the blue early this week, and while the full launch isn't until some point in 2021, with this early access launch having what's said to be the main essence of the game fully intact, it's one we're certainly going to look over in the forthcoming weeks. And finally, at this month's number 1, we have Maneater, in what's touted as being one of the ultimate power fantasies where you play as a terrifying shark, all within a single-player RPG. You begin as a little shark pup, and having survived long enough to gorge yourself up the food chain, you're free to go about exploring the open world where you're able to meet and interact with a huge array of other characters, both animal and human. As you do, you keep growing and generally bring about all manner of havoc to anything that gets in your way. It just looks so, well, delightfully silly, and we mean that in a good way. It's just so preposterous, and while to be honest we've yet to play it, we think it's going to go one of two ways, with it being an either utter wreck or something we never knew we really needed. It just looks so over the top, so unnecessary, and in doing so, we can't wait to see how it actually plays. Maneater comes to PCs via Epic and all of this generation's consoles this coming May 22nd. And with that, be sure to let us know which of the games you're most wanting to play this May down below, and while you're here, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Although in any case, many thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again here soon for more videos.